Guys, we have entered what I'm going to refer to as like the how do I want to put this? Like the high flying part of the day. For whatever reason, a lot of the companies that we've had people clamoring for are all bunched up together. We've had a few people in the chat asking about our next speaker, actually, Petros Pharma. And I do see Fady Boctor here. He's the president and CCO. So let's bring Fady on right now. There he is. Fady, how are we doing today?
Doing well, Spencer. How are you?
Doing great. You're a little quiet, so just try to speak up if you can. Do we have Fady's slides, guys? Yes, we do. There they are. All right, just try to speak up, Fady, and the floor is yours.
You got it. Let me know if this doesn't come through. I tend to have a lower voice, but let's dive right in. So one of the key components that we'll be sharing with you today is unhindering and expanding the access of good healthcare to men in terms of pharmaceutical therapeutics, device therapeutics, and the like. Petros Pharmaceuticals, our mission is to help enable men to live their life to its fullest potential. It is such an underserved market. We're going to touch base on erectile dysfunction being a flagship among them, Peyronie's being another, and we'll dive into solutions that address both markets. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is going to be dependent on FDA. It's going to be dependent on other forces outside of our control. However, we have solidified plans, ambitions, and schedules to get us to where we want to go. They will be speculative, they will be ambitious, they will be tentative, and so we'll advise you to always check into our 10Q for more specificities and to tune into conferences like this for the latest and the greatest. Our stock profile, our company's profile, we are currently at $2.34 as of today. We have range anywhere from $1 to just under $6. Nice range there. We've actually significantly increased our average daily volume in trades. We're at 12 million. And if you've followed Petros for some time, that has been a significant enhancement to our daily trade average and volume. We have about 16.5 million common shares outstanding, a market cap of just under 39 million. We are an emerging pharmaceutical company, and we aim to be the premier men's health company in the world. And we're going to talk to you about how we plan on doing so and the cornerstone assets that will get us there and give us a nice launch into that realm. So if you think about where we're currently residing, our cornerstone marketplace, erectile dysfunction. Believe it or not, after almost 2 decades of erectile dysfunction being brought to public by ways of Viagra and Cialis, destigmatizing it to some degree and to a great extent, it is still considered a nascent movement, a nascent therapeutic area for men. And we'll talk about the specific numbers in a second. The global erectile dysfunction market continues to grow. It's projected to reach almost $5 billion by 2026. The U.S. driving about 30% of that at about $1.5 billion. When you think the ED market has met its full potential or has met its maturation, not even close. It continues to grow quarter over quarter, year over year. And the number of men that are gaining the confidence to get therapeutics are starting to mobilize. And a lot of new platforms are enabling them to do so. We'll touch on some of those as well. So we talked about the underserved markets. It's been estimated that there are about 30 million men suffering from erectile dysfunction in this country. And again, I'll go back to the advent of Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, the big players. Billions spent on direct-to-consumer and marketing and promotion and messaging. It's touched the realms of Hollywood, and it's become well-known. It went from impotence to erectile dysfunction. And yet still, of the 30 million men suffering from erectile dysfunction in the U.S., only 25% of them are estimated to have sought pharmaceutical treatment, therapeutic treatment. The rest tend to suffer in silence due to stigma, discretion, any number of reasons. They have not mobilized to address their erectile dysfunction. We believe predominantly due to stigma and the hurdle of having to be exposed and vulnerable. We have a pathway towards it. And we talked about the 4.7 billion global potential by 2026. It continues to increase significantly. One key feature that I want to toss in there, we always thought that erectile dysfunction was an issue for 40 plus, men of age 40 years plus. It's actually been recently identified that nearly a quarter of the men that are emerging with erectile dysfunction are now actually under 40 years old. So even the younger gentlemen of the U.S. are starting to step forward and looking for therapeutic value. So the market has greater potential to expand into those younger years as well. So we talked about how it continues to grow. We talked about the 30 million men. We talked about new platforms that are enabling those men to seek treatment in a destigmatized fashion. We're nowhere near ideal or optimal. Yet the FDA has recognized a few different pathways, Ensure being one of them, non-prescription safe use regulatory expansion. This is essentially taking a prescription drug and adding a technology to it that enables a person, a patient, to capture that therapeutic without a prescription. That is in existence today in dialogue with the FDA across many different therapeutic areas. That's one platform that's of interest to us and of potential. The zenith of the potential, we believe, is the over-the-counter switch from a prescription medication to becoming now over-the-counter accessible to the consumer of choice. We think that the way to mobilize the silent sufferers in erectile dysfunction will be to attain, for the first time ever, over-the-counter designation for a prescription erectile dysfunction medication. And I'll touch on our brand in a second. That is our goal. We want to be the first movers in the space. We believe we're equipped with both the talent, the pathway, and the molecule that will enable us to get there. And there are a number of emerging technologies that we're currently also sifting through to understand how do we make this therapeutic available to millions of men without the hindrance of having to be exposed or vulnerable or having to go through that uncomfortable initial dialogue. We'll touch on that in greater detail. The brand, Stendra. Stendra today is in market and commercialized. It's available in just about every pharmacy across the country. It is distinct and patent protected, the last standing prescription grade erectile dysfunction medication that is patent protected and remains in market. And if you'll recall, and if you've kept up with our press releases, you'll know that we have an exciting collaboration with 4Hims. We'll dive deeper into that in a minute. But on the 4Hims platform, we announced that we had exponential growth. Year over year, we saw nearly a 470% increase in prescription tablets dispensed by way of 4Hims. That's remarkable. Stendra is alongside generic Viagra, generic Cialis for different price points, and yet the consumer continues to select Stendra for any number of reasons. A very exciting indicator of what Stendra should be, can be, and will be in prescription world. And so we'll dive deeper as to why we think Stendra has the potential of becoming the first mover in the over-the-counter space as a prescription-grade erectile dysfunction medication. So imagine for a moment, it's 9, 10 o'clock, you have your local grocer, to be able to go down the street and pick up a prescription-grade erectile dysfunction medication from your local pharmacy. That is our vision, and that is our mission. It is ad hoc, it's on demand, it's truly accommodating to the lifestyle of a gentleman and the events that occur that warrant this type of therapeutic and medication. And we think by doing so, we'll actually engage men better in their healthcare by giving them an opportunity to purchase it based on their own efforts without having to have that prescriber intermediary. That is our goal. If you've kept up with our press releases, we recently announced that we've executed a draft over-the-counter label. We've also taken that over-the-counter label into a pilot label comprehension study. These are required by the FDA. We had good results that encouraged us to move towards a pivot grade over 450 patients label comprehension study. That has now been completed. We're moving into the next phase, which will be ultimately the self-selection study. And that will be coming to announcement to fruition soon, so stay tuned. In addition to the landmark achievement of potentially bringing a prescription-grade erectile dysfunction medication to over-the-counter status and access to millions of men across the country, the first of its kind, unprecedented, we're also pursuing this landmark achievement towards Peyronie's disease. We'll talk about the therapeutic in our portfolio that addresses Peyronie's disease. Quick background on Peyronie's. If you have not heard of it, Peyronie's is a fibrotic condition. Micro injuries to the penis cause scars and collagen-based formations that ultimately deform the penis in a multitude of ways. This is tremendously debilitating to the gentleman and their partner, and that is unacceptable. Today, the treatment options available to that individual are a series of injections, FDA approved, and certainly the gold standard of today, invasive surgery, and devices, traction devices and the like. Beyond that, the gentleman has no option for something that is an early intervention, something that could potentially still be leveraged even in the stable or chronic phase. Our goal and our mission is to find that therapeutic, hence H100. This is the first prospect that is in gel formation and has actually been proven in a pilot study, a small, well-controlled pilot study with multiple endpoints showing positive results from both from mean stretched penile length increase of 22% to mean curvature reduction of 40% and pain level reduction by about 86%. Remarkable early results in an investigational pilot study. We are now working with the FDA to understand what is our development roadmap. If you've kept up with our press releases, we recently announced that we are approaching FDA with a roadmap that includes the potential for a 505(b)(2) approval, which could significantly help abbreviate or make efficient our developmental roadmap. And more on that will be announced shortly. If approved, this topical gel would be the first non-invasive therapeutic in this highly invasive marketplace of Peyronie's disease. Stay tuned. This is another landmark achievement that we hope to execute in the very near future. Another portfolio division within our organization is within the device industry, the device specific to ED therapeutic industry. We have two flagship brands known across the country and really across the world, Osbon Esteem and Postivac. They both have automatic and manual versions, multiple accessories that go with it. This is essentially a vacuum erection device, also known as an induction-inducing device. This helps infuse oxygenated blood within the penis to organically and naturally induce an erection. This could be done for therapeutic purposes, for example, post-radical prostatectomy, or it could be done for on-demand leverage and utilization for sexual engagement. These devices have been around for some time, and they continue to be the top performers and most credible brands, especially around physician-based prescriptions and recommendations. We have ambitions to take this device portfolio, modify, and do some remarkable technical and technological enhancements to it to take the patient empowerment to self-treat with these devices, to self-condition their penile health to new heights. And that is something that we are constantly working on to continue to bring this division to its full potential. So we talked about over-the-counter. And early on in this presentation, I said we believe we have the right talent as well as the right molecule. So in terms of the molecule, I'll encourage everyone to go check out Stendra.com, take a look at our clinical trials, take a look at our promotion and our messaging, also with the important safety information attributed to it, and understand some of the distinct features of Stendra. As for talent, we have a tremendous board. Within that board, we have John Schulman, who is our executive chairman, and he is also founding partner of Juggernaut Capital Partners. And Greg Bradley, president and CEO of Foundation Consumer Healthcare, a company within the John Schulman and Juggernaut portfolio. They brought Plan B one step from prescription to over-the-counter, driving it to become the number one selling SKU in the country. So if you're not aware, Plan B one step is emergency contraception. And if you look at the prescription base prior to over-the-counter status, you'll see a very different scale of utilization versus when it went over the counter. You'll see a robust movement of patients who are unhindered by having to make an appointment with a clinical practitioner, and were able to acquire it over the counter. It mobilized millions and again became the number one selling SKU in the US. This team has the network, the talent, and the resources, and they understand how to take something in a highly complicated path and to bring it from prescription grade to over-the-counter, working alongside the FDA. We are happy to say that this is these two individuals are a key component to our board and to our competitive strategy and differentiating strategy and competitive advantage. Let's take a look at them a little bit closer with a little bit of history for my background as well. I'll quickly mention John Schulman also has within his portfolio brands like Voss Water, Zoa, which he partnered with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on recently launching. If you haven't checked, obviously, the Rock's Instagram page, you'll see Zoa featured amazingly. Those are the sorts of brands that John Schulman's associated with, and we're excited to be a part of that consumer-intensive and consumer-savvy team and ecosystem. Greg Bradley has a tremendous history. From GlaxoSmithKline to Advantage Consumer Healthcare, Greg has a number of products that he's taken from prescription to over-the-counter status. He's well-versed in that process, and we've actually seen that the FDA is in tune to that process. They recognize that the consumer wants to have more control over their healthcare, and Greg Bradley and his network is very well aware of that, and they've been strong advisors, continue to be significant contributors. I've had the fortune of being a part of the pharmaceutical industry now for a little over 20 years, and I've been a part of tremendous organizations like Merck, Endo, most recently Adapt prior to joining Petros. These companies brought first-in-class innovations and in many ways defined the new marketplaces. I'll go from anywhere from cardiovascular diabetes all the way to men's health, to ICU-grade antibiotics by way of Merck, and most recently by Narcan nasal spray with Adapt Pharma, where we actually were able to take naloxone, a key component for rescue, as a rescue modality for opioid overdose, to a simple intranasal, and it became a remarkably chosen asset and therapeutic across the country. We are in tune and highly ambitious to do a number of landmark achievements, with a cornerstone of taking a prescription Stendra to over-the-counter designation, potentially alongside the FDA, to launching the first potential topical gel, non-invasive, in the Peyronie's landscape. We have our sights set on a number of landmark disruptive technologies and biologics to follow. So exciting team and exciting prospect. Quickly review. We have rapidly growing revenues, patent protected and commercially viable and in market today Stendra. We have the first ever potential candidate for Peyronie's disease, and stay tuned for our device division and the projects we're undertaking from that perspective as well. It is a relatively low cost of entry in terms of purchasing share, and we've demonstrated nice market responsiveness and greater trade volume of our shares. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions that I can address during this call.
Hey, if you got questions, whoa, weird echo there. If you got questions, now would be the time to drop them in for Fady Boctor, the president and the CCO of Petros Pharma. Don't worry, guys. Funware is up next. I see some people in chat. Let's one thing at a time here. One thing at a time. Fady, just to sum it up here. First off, whoever was the person in chat that was asking about Petros like all day today, if you don't have a question, I'm going to be very angry at you. Let me see. Firod King asking how much do the devices cost?
Devices today in market will cost anywhere from $150 to $300 per device.
Okay. Let me see. I don't remember who the person was that was asking about PTPI like all morning. Wherever you are, speak now.
Spencer, I got a question that I know is often asked if we want to give them a minute to show up.
Yeah.
So it's the pathway. How do you take a prescription to OTC? I'll give a quick 15-second overview. The FDA essentially requires 3 different pivotal studies. So label comprehension, self-selection, and actual use. And some of them will require a couple of iterations, but that is essentially the roadmap and taking the FDA along the way. We want to be able to communicate to a low health literacy population to self-select appropriately without a physician intermediary.
Awesome. All right, Fady Boctor, Petros Pharma. Fady, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on the Benzinga Small Cap Conference today.
Thank you, Spencer. Good to see you again.